Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome back to Tucked In Tuesday. Hope you all have had a really good week. I hope you got outside this past weekend and enjoyed the beautiful weather. It's going to get a little chilly again, but that's okay. At least it's not snowing, right? Okay, so tonight we are going to read probably a story that lots of you have maybe heard before, but it's one of my favorites, and it's such a good story, so we're going to read it together. It's Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day by Judith Viorst. So let's find out what happens on Alexander's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. I went to sleep with gum in my mouth, and now there's gum in my hair. And when I got out of bed this morning, I tripped on the skateboard, and by mistake, I dropped my sweater in the sink while the water was running, and I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. At breakfast, Anthony found a Corvette Stingray car kit in his breakfast cereal box, and Nick found a junior undercover agent code ring in his breakfast cereal box. But in my breakfast cereal box, all I found was breakfast cereal. I think I'll move to Australia. In the carpool, Mrs. Gibson let Becky have a seat by the window. Audrey and Elliot got seats by the window too. I said I was being scrunched. I said I was being smushed. I said if I don't get a seat by the window, I'm going to be car sick. No one even answered. I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. At school, Mrs. Dickens liked Paul's picture of the sailboat better than my picture of the invisible castle. At singing time, she said I sang too loud. At counting time, she said I left out 16. Who needs 16? I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. I could tell because Paul said I wasn't his best friend anymore. He said that Philip Parker was his best friend and that Albert Moyo was his next best friend and that I was only his third best friend. I hope you sit on a tack, I said to Paul. I hope the next time you get a double-decker strawberry ice cream cone, the ice cream part falls off the cone part and lands in Australia. There were 2 cupcakes in Philip Parker's lunch bag, and Albert got a Hershey bar with almonds, and Paul's mother gave him a piece of jelly roll that had little coconut sprinkles on the top. Guess whose mother forgot to put in dessert? It was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. That's what it was, because after school, my mom took us all to the dentist, and Dr. Fields found a cavity just in me. Come back next week and I'll fix it, said Dr. Fields. Next week, I said, I'm going to Australia. On the way downstairs, the elevator door closed on my foot, and while we were waiting for my mom to get to go get the car, Anthony made me fall where it was muddy, and then I started crying because of the mud. Nick said I was a crybaby, and while I was punching Nick for saying I was saying crybaby, my mom came back with the car and scolded me for being muddy and for fighting. I am having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, I told everybody. No one even answered. So then we went to the shoe store to buy some sneakers. Anthony chose white ones with blue stripes. Nick chose red ones with white stripes. I chose blue ones with red stripes, but the shoe man said we're all sold out. They made me buy plain old white ones, but they can't make me wear them. When we picked up my dad at his office, he said I couldn't play with his copy machine, but I forgot. He also said to watch out for the books on his desk, and I was careful as I could be, except for my elbow. He also said don't fool around with his phone, but I think I called Australia. My dad said please don't pick him up anymore. It was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. There were lima beans for dinner, and I hate lima beans. There was kissing on TV, and I hate kissing. My bath was too hot. I got soap in my eyes, my marble went down the drain, and I had to wear my railroad train pajamas. I hate my railroad train pajamas. When I went to bed, Nick took back the pillow he said I could keep, and the Mickey Mouse nightlight burned out, and I bit my tongue. The cat wants to sleep with Anthony, not me. It was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. My mom says some days are like that. Even in Australia. The end. Have you ever had a day like Alexander? I know I sure have, but you know what? His mom is right. Sometimes we just have days like that. Then we go to sleep and wake up, and things always seem a little bit better in the morning. All right, moving right along, we are going to read our Bailey School Kids book, Pirates Don't Wear Pink Sunglasses, and we need to find out if Captain Teach is a real pirate or not. What do you think? Do you think he's a pirate? Only one way to find out. All right, chapter 6 is called Bird Brain. Run, Melody screamed and darted for the door along with her friends. They collided before they could squeeze through, and Liza went sprawling across the floor. Howie tripped over her and landed with a thump. Ouch, Liza cried, you hurt my leg. Peg leg, long-tongued Jack crowed. I'd like to give you a peg leg, you bird brain, Eddie hissed at the bird. Long-tongued Jack flapped across the room and landed on Eddie's curly red hair. Squawk, bird brain, bird brain. Cut that out, Eddie shook his head, and Jack flew to his bird perch. Melody giggled. It looks like Jack knows who's the bird brain. Howie sat up and rubbed his elbow. Shh, Teach must be nearby. We have to get out of here before it's too late. The 4 kids peeked out the door. The trail was clear, so they silently slipped out the cabin. They were sneaking around the trail They were sneaking down the trail when a sound from behind a huge oak stopped them dead in their tracks. What might you scallywags be up to? You should be down at the campfire, Teach grumbled in his raspy voice. The 4 kids turned to face Teach. Howie shoved the green sunglasses case deeper in his pocket, and Liza squeezed behind Eddie and Melody. We were just exploring the woods, Melody stammered. Admiring the plants and stuff, Eddie added. Hardy har har, laughed Teach. Then you found my favorite wildflowers in these woods. Teach pointed to a group of flowers that were nearly as tall as the kids. See how those bright orange blossoms hang around the stem like a necklace on a lady's neck, Teach asked. They shimmer like gold. Aye, these be my favorite flowers in the woods. But they have a secret, too. What? Liza asked. Come closer, Teach said. I'll show you. The 4 kids inched closer to Teach as he held up a stem with the dangling orange flowers. Do you see the green jewels? It hangs beneath the blossom. Teach pointed to a small seed pod. Go ahead, touch it. When Liza reached out and tapped the pod, seeds exploded against her nose. Wow, that's neat, Eddie laughed and reached over to tap a few seed pods himself. An atom bomb flower. What's it called? Howie asked. Some call it jewel weed, Teach said with a smile, but others have another name for it. The same thing that Molly the Red said about her very own treasure of riches. What? The 4 campers asked. Touch me not, Teach said. Then he squeezed the dangling pod and sent the seed pinging across Eddie's forehead. Squawk! Touch me not, long-tongued Jack called from the nearby tree. Teach winked at the campers before him. Aye, 'tis best not to touch the jewels of a pirate, but the jewel weed is a jewel of nature, here for all of us to enjoy. Then Teach began to laugh, only this time his laughter sent cold chills racing up the 4 kids' backs. We'd better get back to camp, Melody said as she backed away from Teach. Aye, Teach nodded. Ye best be trotting back to the others before they think something bad has befallen you. The 4 friends left Teach standing next to the clump of jewelweed and hurried to the campfire. All the other kids were roasting marshmallows and listening to Coach Ellison talk about wildflowers. Howie, Melody, Liza, and Eddie huddled near the huge maple tree. Now, do you believe me, Teach is a pirate? Melody asked Eddie. Howie nodded. He's here at Camp Lone Wolf to find Molly the Red's treasure. And he knows we have the map. That's why he's warning us against touching the treasure, Liza whimpered. Eddie shrugged. Teach is here to help us win the race against Sheldon, and the only treasure around here is the buried box of Cracker Jack. He was just showing us a flower in the woods. Howie shook his head. I'm not so sure. If the legend about Molly the Red is true, then her treasure is buried on the shores of the Red River here at the Camp Lone Wolf. Eddie pointed to the run-down cabins. If there was a treasure here, Mr. Jenkins would have castles instead of those rat traps. Exactly, Liza blurted. If we could find the treasure, we could help Mr. Jenkins save the camp and all these huge old trees. There is no treasure, Eddie told her, and I can prove it. How? Melody asked. Eddie held out his hand. Give me the case. I'll prove that Teach is just a boat instructor. Because I'll prove there's no treasure. How can you find it if Teach can't? Howie asked, handing the case to Eddie. Eddie stuffed the case and map into his back pocket. Captain Teach doesn't know this place like we do. Besides, he couldn't find it because there isn't a treasure. What if Teach figures out you have the map? Liza asked. You could be in great danger. He won't find out, Eddie bragged. Then he glared at each of his friends. Not unless you tell him. We won't tell, they all said together, but none of them noticed the brightly colored bird perched in the tree above them. Chapter 7 is called Molly's Map. Come on over, kids, Coach Ellison called Melody, Liza, Eddie, and Howie to the campfire. He handed each one a stick with a marshmallow on one end. There's nothing like marshmallows roasted over an open fire, he told them. Unless it's a roasted scoundrel, Captain Teach bellowed as he came up the path. Eddie gulped and pushed the eyeglasses case deeper into his back pocket before holding his marshmallow above the roaring campfire. Nice job this afternoon, Coach Ellison nodded to Teach. I've never seen a Bailey team row better. Tomorrow we'll see how they fare rowing at racing speed, Teach said. Are you sure their muscles are ready for that, Coach Ellison asked. Before Teach could answer, Long-Tongue Jack swooped down from a treetop and flapped around Eddie's head. Bird brain, he squawked. Cut it out, Eddie yelled, and threw a marshmallow at the bird. All the kids around the campfire laughed. I think Long-Tongue Jack likes you, Carrie teased. I'll make that bird into a feather duster if he doesn't leave me alone, Eddie ducked when Long-Tongue Jack soared around him again. Molly's map, Long-Tongue Jack fluttered over Eddie's head. Bird brain, Molly's map. Coach Ellison looked at Teach. Maybe you'd better call your bird away before someone gets hurt. Teach looked at Eddie and rubbed his long beard. Long-Tongue Jack, quit your flapping. Long-Tongue Jack swooped over Eddie's head and settled on Captain Teach's left shoulder. Teach reached up and gently smoothed Jack's feathers. There, no use getting ruffled on a night as perfect as this. Perfect for what? Carrie called out. Captain Teach held up a telescope and grinned. The skies are clear and there will be a full moon this evening. 'Tis perfect for spying on the stars. The campers leaned back and stared into the night sky as Captain Teach pointed to the twinkling dots of lights in the darkening sky. See them shimmer, he asked. They sparkle like diamonds in a treasure chest. Did you hear that? Melody hissed. Shh, Howie warned. I've spent many a night looking at the sky to help me find my way, Teach continued. I to think that Molly the Red herself gazed upon these very stars. How do you know so much about the sky? Carrie asked. Hardy har har, Teach laughed. The stars and the seas are sailors' friends. He turned and looked straight at Eddie, Melody, Liza, and Howie. His next words made them huddle closer together. Haven't you ever heard the old saying? Red skies at night, sailors delight. Red skies in the morning, sailors take warning. Squawk, Long-Tongue Jack added. Take warning, take warning. That's where we're going to stop. Find out what happens next time in Pirates Don't Wear Pink Sunglasses. All right, boys and girls, I hope you've enjoyed these stories. I hope your teeth are brushed. I hope your jammies are on, and I hope you are tucked in tight. And I will see you next week. Have a good night.